Hello everyone, Time to Grind here, and today I wanted to talk about Monster Sanctuary. And Monster Sanctuary is absolutely incredible, and it's one of my favorite games I've played in all of 2020. I always love it when a game comes out and it combines two of my favorite genres into a unique experience that you can't really get anywhere else. And real quick, before we jump into the review, I do just want to let you guys know that I was given a review copy of the game in order to make a video for you all. I never let that influence my reviews, I just like staying as transparent as possible. So Monster Sanctuary is a Metroidvania combined with a Monster Taming game, and it honestly blew my expectations out of the water. So if you've played any Metroidvanias in the past, my favorite being Hollow Knight, but that's kind of besides the point, you know that all of these games are about exploration and getting new powers and upgrades and getting to new areas and finding secrets, and so this game does something really cool that I never really thought about. The old Pokemon games had these things called HMs, which were pretty much moves that you could teach your Pokemon after you got to a certain point in the game that would allow you to unlock new areas by cutting trees, moving boulders, destroying rocks, surfing on water, and more. So this game takes that concept and puts it in a Metroidvania by having every single monster you catch have an ability they can use in the world that's kind of equivalent to upgrades in a normal Metroidvania. So you'll catch a monster that can create a block on the ground that can press down on pressure plates, or you could use that block to jump on and get to higher places. You could also catch a monster that lights up dark areas in certain caves so you can actually see where you're going. And this in itself honestly makes the game for me. Even if every other aspect of this game was mediocre, the concept of a monster taming game where the monsters you catch and tame allow you to get to new areas and discover new secrets in a Metroidvania is awesome. What's great about this game though is that's not even close to the only amazing thing about the game. So I'm not going to describe all of the different areas you go to and everything, because a huge part of the fun of a Metroidvania is discovering these secrets and new areas and just kind of that overall exploration, but I can describe the bread and butter of the game for you. So you have these monsters, and most of the battles you fight in will be 3v3s. So when you encounter monsters in the wild, they're pretty much always in a team of 3, and you can choose 3 of your monsters in your party to fight them. And this makes the battles super strategy driven, because before the fight you can choose which 3 of your monsters would be good to fight against the monsters you're going to be facing. And it works pretty similar to other monster taming games. You have moves that are different elements, and they can either be physical or magical, and each of your monsters get a turn, and then all the enemy monsters get a turn. There's also a mana system in this game which I like. It takes away accuracy from Pokemon, which in my opinion is an awesome trend in the genre of monster taming games, of taking away that accuracy of 70% chance to hit and replace it with just a mana system that kind of balances the moves themselves. There is also a combo mechanic in the fights which is really interesting. So you have this combo meter which goes up the more times your team just overall hits the opponents in a single round. So some attacks your monsters have will hit multiple times. So part of the strategy is maybe you use a huge multi-attack hit first so it increases your combo meter a ton, and then you save your best monster for last so it gets just this huge damage modifier increase. The battles are also very buff and debuff heavy, so it's kind of satisfying to see all of the buffs you have on your monsters and all the debuffs you've put on the enemies. And you can easily hold down a button to have the game kind of explain all of the buffs and debuffs that are active currently in the fight. Also, when you're playing online, which this game does have, which is really awesome, or against other trainers in the world, it's still 3v3, but you have a whole party of 6 against their whole party of 6. So the battles themselves are really in-depth, and I really like the 3v3 aspect in the combo meter, and it really makes the game feel unique in that department instead of just one-for-one copying Pokemon. Also, when you want to catch monsters in this game, you don't just throw a Pokeball at them when you get their health low. Instead, after every encounter you defeat, you are scored on a scale from 1 to 5 depending on how good you did at things like keeping your guys alive, how fast you killed them, and more. And the more stars you get, the higher chance you have of getting their rare loot. And one of the most important pieces of rare loot they have is their eggs. So if you want to catch a monster, which for me I want to get at least one of, in every kind of monster taming game, but especially this one since they all can do things out of combat, you have to fight them in combat and do good enough where you have a higher chance to actually have them drop their eggs. And when you succeed in getting one of their eggs, you can hatch it, and most of the time it'll already be a decently high level, obviously depending on what level the monsters were when you fought them in the first place. And honestly, I really like this change. It makes random monster encounters a lot less frustrating because you want to try to do better than your last encounter to try to actually get that monster egg. It's not just like, oh, the first time I saw this monster, I immediately catch it easily and now I don't even want to fight them anymore. Also, you can see the monsters in the main world, so you know if it's worth, fighting that encounter, or if you should just try dodging past it completely. And the last thing this game does that honestly may be my favorite part in the entire game is how the leveling works for monsters. So unlike Pokemon, where every time you level up, they get some stats and then every now and then they learn a new move, in Monster Sanctuary, every single monster has their own completely unique skill tree, and they can still evolve and everything just like other monster taming games. So every time you level them up, you can put a point in this giant skill tree that gets them new moves, or makes their previous moves more powerful, or gives them crazy, unique, and awesome passives depending on the monster, and it just overall makes me feel way more involved with them. Instead of just leveling up and seeing some numbers go up, it feels like I'm playing some full-fledged RPG with huge skill trees, but for every single individual monster, and that is insane to me. So you can kind of decide what build to go on for each monster. So for example, my slime, the first monster you actually catch in the game, I spec'd him really hardcore in a just dedicated healing build. So I was still using him hours later because I actually had a purpose for him that I decided, to give him, versus just every monster kind of having a predetermined sort of, build, if that makes sense. And I know that's not 100% true, but overall, compared to this game, you can make, a monster be completely different, builds just dedicated on the skill tree, and it's honestly one of my favorite parts about the game. There's also items and weapons you can put on monsters that have different stat buffs, and some have unique abilities, and you can craft new items and upgrade current ones you have with crafting material you can find. And there's also a food mechanic where you can feed monsters single-use food items, and like the last 3 items they ate are what effects they actually have on them. These are all cool parts about the game, but they aren't anything groundbreaking to me. But I will say that they do give the game a pretty good reward to give you for, completing challenges and finding secrets. And because, once again, this is a Metroidvania, it does a really good job at rewarding you for finding secrets, whether it be, actually challenging platforming parts, or tricky puzzles, or just, hidden secrets like breakable walls and stuff like that. And so at first, the overall story in the game is that there's these champion monsters, which are kind of like legendaries, and there's more of them than normal, and when you fight them, they're super powerful, they can attack multiple times, and so you're kind of just hunting them down as you play more, and then, eventually the story progresses. It's a great Metroidvania, and because of that, there is just a ton of content in the game. I'll be honest, I have played several hours of this game because it is just so much fun, but I still have so much I can do in this game, which is absolutely a good thing. Plus, there's PvP in the game if you're into that, so it's even more content to play. And I love the art style. I'm always a sucker for these kind of like retro pixelated games, and the music is pretty good. Nothing like crazy groundbreaking for me personally, but it never felt out of place or annoying or anything like that. So overall, if you are a fan of monster taming games like Pokemon or Metroidvanias like Hollow Knight, this is a must buy. The game does so many unique things, from the skill tree system to the combo meter to the out of combat abilities the monsters have, and even more than I am even describing in this review. Even after this review goes out and I move on to other games, I will still be playing this game more and more because it's just that much fun and there's so much to do in it. Also, if you want to see even more gameplay of Monster Sanctuary, I actually released 2 Let's Plays for the game, so I'll link the first one at the end of the video and in the comments and description down below. But if you have played Monster Sanctuary, I would love to know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. I know the game was in early access for a while as well, so if you've played it, back when it was in early access, I would especially love to know your guys' thoughts on how it progressed just in its overall development. And if you enjoyed this video, then consider leaving a like down below and subscribing to see more content. I make about 3 to 6 video reviews and Let's Plays a week, along with a live stream most Saturday nights. So subscribe and ring that bell like all the big boy YouTubers say to see those in the future. And if you're going to be grinding out some Monster Sanctuary, I wish you luck and see you all next time.